Have you ever had the experience of meeting someone for the first time, but somewhere along the conversation you get this sense like you've known them forever? That's the way it was with me and Miriam. So I'm so excited to have her here today. She was part of one of my summits about a year and a half ago or so, I want to
That's
say.
about right. Yeah.
Right? Sounds about right. And we've kept connected through social media. And then she reached out recently and was like, hey, let's get together again. I was like, yes, of course I want to get together again. So we're going to record this one and share it with you because I know we're going to go into a lot of value and into a lot of great content that you don't want to miss. So, Miriam, thank you so much for being with us here today.
Oh God, of course. I'm so excited to be here and having a fun chat with you.
I know it's going to be a lot of fun.
Hi, welcome to Sincerely Speaking. I'm Marcia Mara, your self-leadership coach. Now what that means is I'm here to help you rediscover your calling, tap into your greatest potential and strengths, and eliminate those things that keep getting in your way and in the way of your success. So whatever success looks like to you, whether it is in your career, in your business, in your relationships, or in your life in general, I'm here to help you get out of your own way, remove the obstacles, and elevate all of your life to the next level. If you're ready to see everything that you're capable of and see what your life can look like, I invite you to head on over to marciamara.com and set up a 30-minute clarity and confidence call where we will talk about your mission, your vision, your goals, the things that you're here on this planet to create, what might be getting in the way up until now, and some actionable, amazing ways to get out of your own way, to eliminate all those obstacles and reach the level of success that you've been dreaming of. Are you ready? Are you ready for the next level? Then stick around to this conversation of Sincerely Speaking and then head on over to marciamara.com and schedule your 30-minute call. Can't wait to meet you in person. Chat soon.
I don't know if you've seen Miriam before, but just even before we get into the content, you have to look her up on social media because she's all about creativity and playfulness and all these things that we forget about. But we'll get more into that in a minute. Before
Hmm.
we do, share with everybody who might not know you who you are, how you got started, and how you ended up where you're at today.
Okay, sure. So, again, my name is Myriam Martinez, and I have been in the mental health field as a licensed therapist and a registered art therapist for over 20 years in the state of California. And about maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I decided to jump over into the coaching arena, mostly because I wanted to be able to reach more people. I think that was really the main reason that I
Yeah.
wanted to make that transition, right? Because with my license, I'm limited to only working with people in California, which is fine and great. But I wanted to be able to reach globally, to be honest with you, like as many people as I could. And so then jumped into the coaching, right? But what I love to share with people about the art therapy part is that I didn't go into it as an artist, right? I'm not a trained artist. I don't have an MFA. One of my titles is stick figure artist, right? Because I love helping people relax about it. So I feel really blessed at this point in my life to have learned to use art really as a tool for
Absolutely.
healing, for so many wonderful things,
Absolutely.
I didn't learn to use it, via technique,
Yeah.
right? Which is how most people kind of see art, and that's
Mhm.
actually the main reason people are turned off from it.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
one of the reasons why I'm excited for many reasons, but one of the reasons why I'm really excited about this conversation is because I talk to people all the time who don't believe themselves to be creative, but I
Mhm.
think it's because we have all these strange notions around what creativity is and where it shows up and what being an artist is and how you can call yourself an artist or not, depending on your technique or your training or all these things. People tend to think that you're only creative if you're artistic, which is not really necessarily the case. And we're going to talk about all that in a minute. And I'm going to let you take that part because you are the expert in that. But I just love the fact that you address that with people. And also the fact that you come from a therapy background talking about mental health. No offense to anybody out there, but I hear so many people talking about trauma and mental well being who are just starting from their own experience or from a limited scope of knowledge. And when it comes to mental health, I believe that we can do more harm than good if we have a little knowledge, but to be dangerous, enough to be dangerous, but not enough to really know what we're doing. And so,
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Absolutely. And I feel the same way, and it's nothing against any coach or anything like that, but when you look at someone like, who becomes a therapist or a clinical social worker or whatever, to go through 2 years of intense grad school, to go through 3,000 hours of supervised experience, to go through licensing, to still be accountable to a board, to still need to take 36 CEU units every couple of years. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's something that's regulated. And so then, ideally,
Mm-hmm.
there's plenty of bad therapists, keeps you ethical,
Mm-hmm.
right? And up to date on what is the best way to support and help people, right?
Yeah.
And the coaching industry does not have that.
No. And it's not that we can't help, right? I just think that
No,
we need to be
no.
really, really careful how we phrase things. Like one of the very first things I tell people, because I work a lot with words and communication, and part of that is self-talk and leading yourself through some things, right? One of the very first things that I tell people is I'm not a therapist. So if it ever gets to the point where I feel you need a therapist, I'm going to recommend you a great one, but I'm not it. Right? In
Hmm.
coaching, there's this partnership, there's this exchanging of possibility, right? And I
Hmm.
think of coaches more like hope dealers. Like I let you see there's hope and I help you mine it. But I'm not by
Oh, I
any
love that.
stretch of the imagination someone who can tell you, okay, this is what you need to do to get over this trauma, or so, you know
Hmm.
what I mean? So
Right, right,
I'm
right.
very, very cautious about that. And I just
Hmm.
wanted to put that out there because, again, I value what coaches do. I think coaching is phenomenal. I think it's a great industry. I wouldn't be in it if I didn't think there's value in it.
Hmm.
But I think we need to be careful about those lines. And so I
No,
just wanted to
absolutely.
put
No,
that
I
out there.
agree. No, I agree. And even for myself, in my coaching, which I title myself a mental well-being coach and a creativity mentor, I'm very clear with my clients. We are not doing therapy, right? Because therapy is a treatment and I am not treating anything. We're looking
Absolutely.
at your mindsets, we're looking at your emotional management, things like that. But if I see something that seems to be more along the realms of, you need mental health support,
Hmm.
then I'm going to go ahead and tell that client, this feels a little bigger than what we're doing, so let me give you some referrals, So again, even with my background, when I'm coaching, I'm very clear and very specific, that we are not doing treatment of anything. And that's really the main difference between coaching and therapy, right?
Yes, absolutely. And it's true with pretty much anything, like whatever you are looking to work at. I was in financial services for a while,
Hmm.
but I was an insurance broker, right? And I did have an investment license, but I wasn't certified to do investments. So I was very careful about that line.
Right.
So in anything that you do, just be
Hmm.
aware as the practitioner and as the client to lay everything out clearly, to know where the boundaries lie, to know what the scope of the work that you're paying for is, and to make sure that you stick with it.
Yep. Fantastic advice. I love
So let's
it.
get into creativity and playfulness because that's
Let's
what,
start play. Let's
yeah,
start playing,
let's just
right?
have fun because that part felt a little heavy there at the end.
It was. Mental health is heavy, which is why I like to bring fun and play
Yeah, so tell me a
into the
little bit
work.
more about how you discovered or decided to start leaning more into using playfulness and creativity as the focus for the work that you do.
Yeah, so it's interesting because before, I went into my graduate program, I was a preschool teacher for many, many years, about 6 or 7 years, something like that. And and that's part of what prompted me to enter my art therapy program was that I thought, oh, I can help with, kids in this therapeutic way and, whatever. But what I mostly remember from that experience is the authenticity that exists at that
Mm,
age in our lives and how confident they feel approaching art materials, expressing. And even though to us it might look like, a blob of, whatever, to them, they're taking a lot of pride, in that. And look at my tree and the colors, and all this stuff, And so I thought, well, who are we to say that's not art?
mm-hmm.
And who are we to say this young person is not an artist, right? And why can't that apply to us
Absolutely.
as adults, right? Because we were all that child at some point, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so that really started to draw my interest into, using it therapeutically,
Mm-hmm.
right? And integrating that component of, no, we all have this and we all have these kind of missing experiences from our childhood for whatever reason, right? We can't all get our needs met. It's just what's true in life.
Yeah.
Um, but to be able to tap into that childlike state can offer so much to us, because my big thing is that as adults, we spend way too much time in our thinking brain and
Too
thinking and
much.
thinking and thinking, and in my work, to try to help people understand that nuance, like, no, you're still thinking. Let's move towards like feeling your body and feeling your feelings, and it's like, wow, that's a real process and a practice.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when it came to the art, because I learned how to use it, in a healing way, I started to discover what was happening for me. Things that were coming up through simple paintings or doodling. I host a doodling webinar where people can just let go. There's no goal, so to speak, and so that's the beauty of art and creativity and play as well, because you're trying to get out of that thinking place.
Yes,
You're
absolutely.
trying to tap into that other part of your brain that's just like so expansive and awesome. I always tell people, like, I love our left brain. It's super awesome in its own right, and all that it does for us, but it kind of hits a wall.
Yeah.
There's a limit to it, and so when we bring in that right brain activity, right, the creativity and play, that's when we can really experience whole body wellness, right? Because now
Absolutely.
this is balance. Now I'm
Absolutely.
having both experiences, right? And it's not to put down the left brain, but we need to do a little bit more of that creative process, And I try to teach
Absolutely.
it through in a playful way, like, okay, we're gonna doodle, right? And what's interesting about adults is that they'll start, by saying, well, I don't know how, right? And it's like, okay, I just want you to think about that comment, right? Like, you just said you don't know how to doodle, which means you're already thinking,
Thinking.
right?
Yeah.
So let's just notice, right? Because this is probably how we approach life in many ways,
Yeah.
certainly with our businesses. I'm
Absolutely.
thinking and I'm thinking. So that is how we bring that skill set into everyday life.
Yeah.
So now you can approach the doodling with no thinking, just let go, experience flow, and see what awesome things emerge from that experience. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love so much hearing you talk about this, because one of the things that drove me out of the educational system, and I was a teacher for many years as well, was that noticing how much we squelch the kids' ability to just to be creative, to let it out, to produce, to just not even judge it, just let it go and stop criticizing it. And I taught at the high school level, so it's funny that we saw the two ends of the spectrum and we found the same thing, right? Because by the time they got to me, they were so disheartened by not being allowed to express themselves in a way that feels natural and fun and playful, that they start to equate not being able to do that with not having anything to offer, which led them to thinking that they weren't enough, right? So I had all these amazing, creative, wonderful, beautiful human beings with such great potential that were sitting in a classroom thinking that they had nothing to bring and that they weren't worth it, right? So that was the part that I saw. I saw the result
Yes.
10, 12 years later,
Yeah. Right.
right?
And
Not what
I'm often
happens.
sitting with the result as well, right?
Absolutely.
Which is that people are afraid and they don't see themselves as creative. I had a woman describe making jewelry, and she's like, yeah, but that's really left brain. That's not creativity. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
Hello.
Right? You're arranging material, you're creating an aesthetic, like, what is creativity? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Creativity is just imagination.
Absolutely.
That's really all it is, right?
Absolutely.
But again, the limitations, you brought up school and the system, right,
Mm-hmm.
come from that early experience, and when I was training as a therapist, we often train in the school system, right? And so I would go observe certain classrooms. And so in a kindergarten classroom, I heard a teacher say to a child, "Oh, fire trucks aren't blue." Right? And I was like, "Oh," like my heart just hurt so bad. And I thought, wow, this is what happens.
Mm-hmm.
We try to tell people, children, right, that there is a right and a
A
wrong
wrong way.
way to
Mm-hmm.
do art. And it's
Yep.
like, there is no right or wrong. It's an inner expression. So how can that be right or wrong,
Yeah. And
right? And
that's not
so,
just with art, and I'm sorry, I know I interrupted you, but
no, it's okay.
I was just thinking about a conversation I had with one of my sisters not too long ago about one of my nephews. And she was expressing a frustration at the fact that he would try one thing, and if it didn't work out, then that was it. He tried, right? But then I drove her back, like I brought her back to thinking about how we treat students in the school system. And it's not to knock the school system. Teachers are doing the best they can.
Yep.
They're overloaded, overworked, underpaid,
Yeah.
all
It's
these
not
other
about the
things, right?
teachers.
It's not about the teachers, it's about the system, right?
Yes,
And
exactly.
I brought her back to thinking, one of the first things that kids learn is that there's a right and wrong. So if there's a right and wrong and I tried something and it was wrong, then I don't know what's right, so somebody has to come and teach me,
Hmm.
right? And so we don't teach them to explore beyond that. It's
No,
like, okay, that didn't turn out the way you wanted. Let's think about what else we can do.
yeah,
Let's What did we learn?
what
What
else?
can
Yeah,
we, how can we
what
use this? It's
happened?
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, because that polarity in right and wrong doesn't offer any learning possibility
Mm-hmm.
whatsoever, right?
Absolutely.
Whereas if we just leave it open, like let's just see what happens. Let's see what emerges as you splatter paint on this paper, or let's see what emerges as you roll clay in your hand, whatever it is, and how all of these different mediums, boost or tap into different parts of ourselves, in different ways, and just how powerful that can be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I want to go back to a statement you made earlier that creativity is nothing else but imagination.
Hmm.
And the thing about it is, tell me if you've noticed the same thing. We're all really good at using our imagination to catastrophize.
We're very creative in that realm.
Right? But when it comes to using it for anything else, we don't identify it as creativity, and it
No,
just drives me nuts.
no, no. And I'll say to someone, like, did you plan something for your business? Did you plan a marketing strategy? Did you plan a meal? Did you, right? And it's like, that's creativity. You are creating something, right? But again, the definition of that is so like the tiniest little box that people just can't see themselves in that, so we can really open that up and be expansive and allow yourself to work through the feelings of fear and I don't know what's going to happen. And it's like, yes, exactly. Right. So moving from I don't know what's going to happen to I don't know what's going to happen. Right. And
Yeah.
I'm excited and it's a little scary. And maybe I'm even a little worried, but I can move through that, right? Because the energy around it is different. So the more you play with art and creativity and move through those feelings through the art,
Yep.
right? Either it's a big flop and you're like, oh well, that happened, or
Yep.
you're like, wow, this is speaking to me and there's something that's, that it's saying,
Yeah.
which is how I see the art constantly,
Yeah. And
you know.
I was thinking as you were talking about how we do that also with feelings and with emotions,
Hmm.
how we try to push it to the left brain, right? Like use your words instead of allowing,
How do you feel? Yeah.
how do you feel?
Yeah.
What's
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 happening in your
going
body
on?
right
Yeah,
now?
just
Yeah.
exactly.
Talk about being able to connect to your body, right? And what's happening in here. And so many adults are like, but I don't know how to do that.
Hmm.
And it's like, right. So that's where we start, right?
Absolutely.
Because if we're spending, especially if you're a business owner, and really it doesn't matter what you're doing in your life, if you're spending all of your time in your head, that is how we end up in these thinking loops that make us feel like we're on a hamster wheel.
Absolutely.
Right. So when we tap in, and that's what the art does, right? Just kind of brings you back into your body, and anything could come up. You might cry, you might, whatever, but it's like, okay, but now my body is here
Hmm.
and it's letting me know, wow, there was some stuff going on actually, but I was so busy thinking and moving and doing that I
Yeah.
wasn't even aware, right? And
Yeah.
that's really important when it comes to emotional and mental well-being because our bodies are not machines.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just, every time I think about the progression, right, it kind of breaks my heart over and over and over again every time I think about it because it starts with, oh, stop throwing a tantrum, use your voice, use your inside voice because you're embarrassing me, right? And it's, again, well-meaning people who we don't know any better. And we've all fallen into that, right? We're not
Absolutely.
judging or criticizing anybody. And then it goes into, okay, if you are going to be a good boy or a good girl or a good student, whatever that might be the label that they give to you, then you have to be in complete compliance regardless of your feelings or your emotions. And then you keep suppressing and you keep pushing down and you keep ignoring and you keep not paying attention to, and you keep labeling things as bad or good, which is that polarity that we were
Hmm.
talking about
Hmm.
before. And
Hmm.
eventually you get to an adult stage and you're like, okay, what do you want? I don't know. Am I allowed to want something?
Yeah, I'm not connected to myself, so I'm not even really sure, right?
Yeah,
And I see that a lot. I mean,
me
certainly in
too.
my psychotherapy practice, I see that a lot with young people that are like, I don't even know
Yeah.
what I want or what I like, because I've been told, what to do essentially my whole life, or I have younger kids that feel inadequate, like as
Hmm.
you're saying, less than, and they have such fear and anxiety, about the grades. And it's like, wait a minute, if we're only focusing on the grades and we're not looking at how stressed out you are, then we're missing something here. So let's
Absolutely.
let's look at how we can balance this a little bit, right? So that you can care and have integrity around how you want to show up at school, but also understand that the mental well-being part, if you're not addressing that, is going to interfere with that goal. And that applies to us
Yep.
throughout our lives. It doesn't
Yep.
change. It's not limited to kids in school.
Not even a little bit. In fact, I was just thinking about how many of my clients come to me and one of their first questions is, how do I figure out my life's purpose? And I'm like, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Like, that's one of the main things that I do with clients, and I'm happy to do it. I love that I get to support them in that sense, right? But one of the very first things I try to get them to understand is, you're putting too much pressure on this. We have so much pressure from many other places. Your life's purpose? Well, it depends. What role are you playing right now? What do you want to see in that area? Where do you want to go? Where are you right now? And what feels more aligned with you? There's no such thing.
Right. But so much pressure because then that's the right.
Yeah.
See, I think it goes back to that. If I find my purpose, I'm doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the setup,
Yep.
right? Because now you're anxious. And so you're not going to be able to feel and tune in to what feels right to you,
Absolutely.
right? And that's very limiting.
It is, it is. And it's
Hmm.
amazing how many of us, and I include myself in this, right? When we get to a space where what should be next is tapping into, what am I experiencing? How am I seeing this?
Hmm.
What is it that I'm wanting to see as a result of this? We stop ourselves because no, 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 wait, there has to be a right, there has to be a wrong. Am I doing this right? Am I making the correct choice? What if I pick the wrong thing? And we just, imagination again, right? We use our creativity to catastrophize and bring it to the worst possible case scenario instead
Hmm.
of just allowing ourselves a space of, okay, let's just breathe.
Slow down for a second, right? You're running a little far away.
Yeah.
I don't think you're here anymore,
Nope.
right?
Come back.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. No, I love that. It's so important, that self-awareness.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
So for someone that comes to you, or you, it starts a conversation with you and says, you know what, I'm really feeling all this pressure, I'm feeling so anxious, so stressed out, so whatever, and you want to help them tap into their creativity and their playfulness, what would be something that you would advise that they can do, like, right away, to start releasing a little bit of that pressure?
Oh my goodness. And then my brain starts going crazy, right? Of all the things that I'm like, oh my goodness, there's so many things. But I really love to introduce Play-Doh to people,
Hmm.
because they can really connect to the childlike experience with it. The smell is something that if we played with that as a child, that's really embodied, or they had children and they played with them. And so there's something about that, the colors, that kind of thing. So I'll say to people, my stress pack, that I give to people when I go to do talks and stuff like that. I put a little tiny thing of Play-Doh, and I put some markers and just
Hmm.
like a little tiny piece of paper, right?
Nice.
And the invitation is to just play. which means just I don't know, smush it, tear it, pull it. It doesn't matter, right? But all you're really doing is noticing what is happening to me
Yeah.
as I'm doing this. What's going on, right? Because what I consistently get as feedback, after I do a talk and I bring markers and everybody's freaking out and I'm telling everybody, yep, I know what you're thinking. I don't know how, and I can't do it. It's okay, right? And we guide everybody through it. And what consistently comes back to me is, I feel so different.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's right. You feel different.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe more in yourself, maybe more relaxed, maybe more aware, right? Because if we're running on adrenaline and cortisol all the time, we just don't have the clarity,
Yeah.
right? So when we slow down, which is something that art does so much, right? Then we can have that experience. I call that flow.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I might invite someone to just, grab some markers and just like let the pen kind of move.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So there is this letting go. Tune into what color calls you.
Mm.
Is there a color that's attractive right now? Well, then go with that. And now you're learning to tune into yourself, right? And again, that's a skill that can be brought into just a general life experience. And then what happens when you start doodling, right? How does your body feel? What do you notice? What do you notice with different types of doodling? That kind of a thing. And how does it feel to let go?
Mm.
Right? And not worry about an outcome or whether it's going to be right or wrong,
Yeah.
right? That it's just going to be. And how can
Absolutely.
you experience that for yourself? Well, I can just be with this doodle and it's okay,
Yeah, that
right?
is so powerful and so amazing in so many ways. I don't know that people realize how powerful what you just said is. There's this element of curiosity that I work with people around. And what you're mentioning, everything has to do with that, right? Getting
Yeah.
curious
So
about
curious.
yourself. And instead
Hmm.
of judging or criticizing or trying to get it right, which is what you were mentioning, it's just getting curious about what happens. What am I feeling? How am I
Yep.
experiencing this? For me, I can share openly and honestly, I used to hate coloring. Anything that had to do with coloring, my process was I hate it. I
Hmm.
just can't stand it. I don't see the point in it. I don't want to do it. I was very resistant to it. And when I got curious around it, I realized that it had a lot to do with experiences in kindergarten and first grade, where you're getting outside of the line, or is that the right color? Or it was so much pressure to
Takes
get
the
it
fun out of
right
it.
that took the fun out of it. So I
Exactly.
started resenting it and hating it, and that's what I brought into adulthood. But
Right.
when I got curious around it and saw it and released it, I was like, huh, you know what? It's not so bad. It's actually kind of fun.
It's okay. It's okay. Exactly. Exactly. And it's such a parallel to life, because
Hmm.
I've had people like again that say, I don't know how to doodle. And so I'll say, okay, so grab the pen, right? Make a line. There, you did it.
Yep.
Right. And it's like the brain, it takes like a few seconds to go, whoa, like I just did this thing and land again in reality, which is like, oh wow, that wasn't really a big deal.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, I
Yeah.
can do more of this. And that's building resilience.
Absolutely. Have you seen that book, The Dot? I'm sure you have.
The dot.
The Dot. Look it up. It's a kid's book,
I
but
will.
it's this little girl who doesn't think she's creative or can draw or anything. And the teacher says, just do a dot. And then the teacher takes that dot and frames it. And suddenly it's art.
That's right.
And now she's an artist. Well, she
That's
has it
right.
sign it first. That's what it is. She has
That's
it
right. You have to
sign
sign
it
your
first.
art.
Yeah.
That's right. That's
And
right.
then she frames it. And then she starts doing all these dots all over the place. Dots with this color, with two colors, with three colors, and just being really creative around it. It's a really fascinating book. I think you'll like it. It's
I
just called
love
that, The
that.
Dot.
That's
So
perfect.
look it up. I was just reminded of that when you said the line. Because
Yes.
at the end, her little brother is like, I can't do what you do. And she's like, I just draw a line. And that's how the book ends.
Right. And again, when we bring that into life, is
Yep.
in business, and we're in that place where I don't know if I can do it. It's that parallel. Well, just do one thing,
Hmm.
right? And once you do that one thing, your body can relax, and then you do the next thing, right? And then you
Exactly.
kind of start flowing again, right? So that's how I
Absolutely.
see that parallel between doodling and art and play, and I try to help people. And what I practice is how can I bring play into my life every day so that when I'm working, especially, it's not like, oh, I have this to do, it's like, well, how am I going to play today? Like, how am I going to make this fun?
Yeah,
Essentially, right? Because otherwise, then I'm not that motivated to do it. Right. And
absolutely.
people feel really down on themselves for that. It's like, no, it's just that maybe it's a little dry and you need to add a little color to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so keep that Play-Doh on your desk, keep some markers on your desk, right? Have some stuff that's there and available so that if you feel a little stuck, if you're getting a little overwhelmed, you can just pause, experience flow,
Yeah.
and then bring that into whatever it is that you're doing.
Oh, that is so awesome. Pause, experience flow, and bring that back into whatever you're doing. We
Yep.
should we should like stitch that on a pillow or something.
You know what? I have been thinking about doing stitching and selling little pillows that have like those kinds of little sayings, because I think they are like important
Oh
visuals for
yeah.
us to go, oh, that's right. Right. I'm gonna keep going with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Time flies when you're having fun, and we have
Mm.
already run through our half hour. But before we end this conversation, first, how can people connect with you? How can they find out about what you do? Do you have any webinars or anything coming up? Just let us know everything
Yeah, oh
that's
no,
going on in your world
absolutely. So if you go onto my website, MyriamMartinezCoaching.com, and that's Miriam with a Y.
with a Y.
Yes, very different spelling. You can actually access my free Doodle webinar series because I want everybody to have access to that experience. So it's a
Mm,
3-part email series where I walk you through the doodling experience and also integrate neuroscience and what's really happening in your body and in your brain, and then how does this really serve you in everyday life. It's like, yes, we're playing and we're having a lot of fun and it's silly, and it's something very important that you can integrate into your daily life. So I love that that's always there and available for people. You can find me on social media, Instagram, Myriam Martinez Coaching, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm on all the places. And actually, in January, I'm going to start a 12-week program that is going to be for women in midlife. And it's all
mm,
about confidence sustainability, right? Like long-lasting confidence. How can
awesome.
you really hang on to it and sustain it long term? And we're going to play. We're going to do a lot of playing. So if anybody's interested, you can go to my website and learn more.
Sounds great. So I will add the links to the show notes and the description on YouTube and all that so people can just click and find you. But make sure that you go check it out. And then lastly, anything that you would like to share with us as parting thoughts before we wrap this up?
Oh, absolutely. I think that what I really love for people to keep in mind is that we've all been really conditioned around what is art and what is an artist and all of that. And that's really comes from a colonial perspective, if you really think about it. And so it's very, very limiting, and it has not allowed people to fully express themselves and then
Mm-hmm.
experience full body well-being, right? So I want people to remember that, and that even if they feel afraid, that even if they just make one little mark on a paper with a marker, that they're going to feel something really different, and that ideally they'll keep going with that and really be able to see the benefit of that in their lives. So that's what I
Yeah,
want people to remember.
awesome. So openness, curiosity, and just let it go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let it go.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Miriam. This is so fun. I'm so glad that we connected and that we were able to record this for everybody to share. But thanks again for all your value and your wisdom. And everybody go check out MyriamMartinezCoaching.com. Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you.